All right. Any observations about breathing? How did those two techniques go? Did you like one versus the other?
Oh, can you hear me? Okay. I preferred the last one. I think it was really helpful to have that very detailed visualization, thinking about your lungs expanding, and then the whole, even below, like what's happening on all sides there.
Yeah.
I think was good.
Yeah, I really like that one too. Very good.
You're doing that visualization with the lungs expanding. Should your body be like, I guess I felt like I was doing a slight upper back bend.
That's a great observation. Yes. So it's very subtle, but when we fully expand the lungs, yes, the spine lengthens as well, which is exactly a tiny back bend. That does happen. And then when we completely exhale, the spine rounds a tiny bit. That's a very good observation. Okay, and then in the chat here, Monique says the second option was better. I lost focus with the counting. Yeah. Some people love the counting. Some people really dislike it. Yeah. When I first started practicing it, did I tell you all this already? When I first started working with the counting, it turned into a competition, like an internal competition. And so I had to quit doing that for a while, but now I like it. Now I like working with the counting. In fact, I like combining the counting with that visualization of the expansion. I find especially the lower aspect, you can't see me, but my hands are down here, that idea of the diaphragm moving down and creating more space for the lungs to expand in this direction. I find that to be really effective at increasing the volume of the breath. Yeah. Does anyone know why, like from a physiological perspective, why are we working on the breathing in this way? Okay, I'll tell you. We're working on increasing oxygenation in the body. So, we're bringing in oxygen when we breathe. That pause is a great way, or like starting to get in control of the pace of the breathing. In other words, not just breathing really fast unconsciously. When we breathe slowly, and especially when we add that pause, we're increasing, what is the word I'm looking for? That exchange of oxygen into the bloodstream. That's what I'm trying to talk about. So, we breathe, it's one thing to breathe the air into your lungs. It's a different step for the oxygen to make its way from your lungs into your bloodstream. And our bodies need oxygen in order to function, to metabolize, to for all of our cells to be healthy. We need to have, a really good, efficient exchange of oxygen into the bloodstream. Okay, good. Any other questions or anything about breathing before we move to consistent yoga practice? Okay, y'all are quiet today. That's fine, because I have plenty I can share. Okay, so before we started the recording, I was just kind of musing and talking a little bit about the topics for today. So I'd like to spend some time, kind of an extra topic to squeeze in today, about how to establish your personal consistent yoga practice, because it's not intuitive. We may have the intention of, yes, I want to practice yoga 5 days a week, but actually putting it into practice and making it work is a whole other challenge. It's a whole other story. So I'd like to share some tips with you. The first thing is that we need to build yoga into our daily routine. So just like you probably wake up, get out of bed, and go use the restroom, it's automatic. It naturally happens every day. You're not going to get up and get in your car and drive to work. Like, that's not the correct sequence. Like, we're going to wake up and we're probably going to use the restroom before we do anything else. Just like that, we need to have a spot for yoga in our schedule. So that might mean, waking up in the morning, doing your business in the restroom, and then rolling out your mat for, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes of yoga practice, whatever works for you. It could be at lunchtime, it could be in the evening, it could be any time of day, but you have to figure out what works best for you. Once you figure that out, the problem is not solved. There's still more that you need to figure out. You need to figure out what you're going to practice. Am I going to do a practice that I make up myself? Am I going to follow a video? Am I going to log in for a class? What am I going to do? So you need to know what time of day you're going to practice, and you need to know what you're going to practice. And then you need to make it real. You can make it real by, I think pretty much these days, everyone uses a calendar of some sort. So scheduling it on your calendar, because it's important, just like going to the dentist is important, or, having a meeting with your boss, and you allocate time for that on your calendar. We need to do that for our self-care as well. So I think it's a really practical and beneficial idea to spend a little time, like invest a little time, sit down with your schedule, like move things around if needed, and figure out what time of day can I do my yoga practice, schedule it in there. And maybe even if you're going to be doing a video, you can paste the link of the video that you intend to do. Maybe every Tuesday, you're going to do the same video. So make your Tuesday appointment, make it recurring, stick your video link on there. That way you can very easily, show up at 9 o'clock or whatever and press the link and do your practice. And you eliminate a bunch of barriers. You're really organized and scheduled, and, you can do your yoga practice. So yeah, I think those are my high level best tips for figuring out your consistent practice. Let me elaborate here a little bit. So already that probably that I have a lot of videos on YouTube, so you can easily go and search around the channel and find your favorites. There's different ways that you can organize them. You could bookmark it. You could make your own playlist of your favorite video yoga practices. That way you can easily refer to it. Also, we teach classes live every day of the week. So if our classes happen to coordinate with your schedule, you might want to, become a member of the studio and join us for classes. That has kind of an extra motivation in that there's a whole community, just like we're all here together, there's a whole community of people. And you start to see your regular new long distance yoga friends when you show up for class. So that's a motivation in and of itself. And then also, if that's not the right fit for you, I also have Patreon, which is, it's a monthly practice calendar that I plan each month so that it's kind of pre-designed for you and you know what yoga practice to do every day of the month. There's other resources that go along with that. But I'm just trying to explain that there's different ways that you can practice, and it's not a one size fits all. That's why we've got lots of options so that you can find what is suitable for you, like what makes sense in your life. The most important thing is that you actually do some kind of yoga practice, whatever it is. If you're doing a self-guided practice or a video or a class or a whatever, it just needs to be the right thing so you'll actually do it. I have a question over here in the chat. Can you sign up mid-month for Patreon? Yes, you can, but Patreon does billing in kind of a weird way in that they charge you on the day you sign up, and then they charge you on the first of the month. So if you sign up today, you pay on the 13th, and it's $19. And then on the 1st, so it's charging you on the 13th for the balance of November, and then it's going to charge you $19 again on December 1st for December. So some people choose to wait until the 1st of the month to sign up, but you absolutely can sign up at any time. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, so pick the time of day that makes most sense for you. Pick what you're going to practice and then document it in some kind of way so that it's real. It exists in real life and you're going to actually do it. Yeah. And then we all have the best of intention to do the yoga practice, but sometimes something comes up. Life happens and it's impossible for you to do your yoga practice on Tuesday at 9 o'clock. Do not beat yourself up up over it. Do not let your yoga practice stress you out. Just give yourself some grace and say, I had the best intention, but my car ran out of gas, or, whatever, my car broke down, or my kid got sick and I have to take them to the doctor. It's okay. I'm going to skip the yoga practice for today. Tomorrow, I'll get back to the yoga practice. So please don't let your yoga practice stress you out. Yeah. And if you need any help, if you like, we all run into times in life where we get out of routine and we're not practicing the way we want to, send me a note. I will be happy to help, get you back on track and get you going with your yoga practice. Sometimes just having, another perspective, another person look at the situation can help give you some clarity about how to get back on track. So please feel welcome to send me a note. Okay, any questions about consistent yoga practice or any specific challenges that you have been experiencing in establishing your practice? Can I do any troubleshooting? So I expect that starting tomorrow, everyone's going to have a consistent yoga practice. Oh, you know what? Actually, let me tell you one other detail here. Consistent doesn't necessarily need to mean, you know what I'm saying? Consistent doesn't necessarily mean every single day. You don't have to practice yoga every day. Do what works for you. If your Wednesdays are packed with meetings and it's difficult to get dinner on the table at night or whatever, like it's just a really stressful and busy day, you don't have to do yoga practice that day. Do it on the days where, it's manageable and reasonable to get it done. And also, this one might be obvious, but I just want to make sure to mention it anyway, just in case you have a nagging thing in your mind that's telling you it has to be an hour of yoga practice. It does not. You don't have to do an hour or 75 minutes or 90 minutes. Sometimes we get that perception because if we show up to a yoga class, that is the duration of the class. But in real life, practically, if we're doing 20 minutes of yoga practice or 30 minutes of yoga practice 5 days a week, that's amazing. Like I would say that 5 days a week of 20 minutes of practice is more beneficial than taking 2-hour-long classes per week or 1-hour-long class per week. The consistency is more important than the duration of your practice. Okay, very good. Now let's change gears and switch to, I don't know, I think this is the main topic of the day, the discussion about Ayurvedic guidance about food. So in Sanskrit, food is ahara, A-H-A-R-A. And the first thing that I would like to tell you is that Ayurveda teaches us that when we eat, we need to eat the right food at the right time, in the right place, with the right company. So the right food at the right time, in the right place, with the right company. So the right place means probably at a table, sitting down. In India, often they have the custom of sitting down on the floor to eat. And, we know from the yoga practice that sitting on the floor is challenging all by itself. But what if you're trying to sit on the floor and eat your food at the same time? What would the difference be of eating sitting on a chair versus eating sitting on the floor? Can you visualize it?
I think my stomach would be squished and not in a good
Yes.
place to digest food.
Yeah. Well, your stomach is a little bit compressed. That's exactly the point that I was going to make. The stomach is a little bit more compressed when we're sitting on the floor. And so then we have a tendency to not eat as much. It would be uncomfortable probably to eat as much sitting on the floor as I normally do sitting at the table. So that's an interesting idea to think about. And then if we extrapolate that to what happens if I'm eating standing up, oh, then the stomach has even more capacity. So like you're standing at the refrigerator, just like putting things in, and before you know it, like you don't even realize how much food you've put into your mouth. So definitely a nice idea to sit down while you eat. Preferably not while you're like, so if we talk about at the right time has lots of meanings. So the thing that I was about to say, like it's not the correct time or place to eat while you're driving in the car for a number of reasons. We cannot eat mindfully while we're also doing another activity. I'm super guilty of this. I like to watch YouTube while I eat. But it's not, it's not a great habit. The best thing is to be present and look at your food and smell your food and be so mindful while you eat that you appreciate the temperature. Like appreciate, I mean like observe. I don't mean like, wow, this is an amazing temperature of food, not like that. But you appreciate the temperature, you appreciate the texture of the food, you notice it while you're eating. So at the right time also means, I don't know, I'm kind of skipping all around, giving all kinds of different quotes from Ayurveda, but another thing is that Ayurveda advises that we should eat when we are hungry. We shouldn't eat, at a time when we're not hungry. It is said that when we eat foods during a time when we're not hungry, there is too much food in the, digestive tract, more than the body can digest, more than the body can process. And so the food is sitting there, just like if you were to leave food sitting out on the countertop, for a few hours, it would start to, like, the quality of the food diminishes. If it's in your body, Ayurveda teaches that it's like, there's undigested food sitting there. So it's kind of like it's spoiling while it's still in your body, which leads to having toxins in your body. So it's important to, to eat the right amount at the right time. So if you've had breakfast and your friend says, hey, let's go get a coffee, don't also get, a pastry 2 hours after you ate breakfast, because your body is still digesting the breakfast. You don't need more to add more food on top at that time. Okay, and then let me just get to the part of with the right company. So you don't want to be eating your meal while you're having a stressful conversation with someone. Like, you should eat your meals with people who you like, or by yourself is also fine. But you should eat with company that adds to the experience of eating and makes it pleasurable and makes you not be distracted. You still can be mindful of what you're eating while you're sitting with, the company that you're with. Let me pause here for a minute before I continue. Any commentary, questions so far? Okay. People are super quiet today. All right, totally fine. Let me continue.
Let me just go back and make sure that you got it, because in my brain I'm like, that's not possible, but it and everything. So we didn't say the right food, but you said the right time.
The right food at the right time, yes.
And okay, so you didn't say anything about the right food. Like, what is the right food? Did you talk about that yet? No,
not
right?
yet. Not yet.
The right time is when we're hungry, right?
When we're hungry, and I'm going to elaborate about all of these things more in just a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, and the right place is like at the table or on the, did you say on the floor is okay?
Traditionally in India, they do eat on the floor. I mean, even now, like when they have a celebration, sometimes they've done this at the yoga school. They lay out a banana leaf on the floor, and then the servers come by and they put your food on the banana leaf, and you're sitting in front of your leaf and you eat. So yeah, on the floor is also okay. It's not really part of American culture or Western culture to eat sitting on the floor, but if you want to, you certainly can.
And then the right company.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking about like going out to dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So if you go out for dinner, and if it may be with your partner, your spouse, your, a person, presumably you like this person and it's enjoyable to eat with them. Mm-hmm. If we're going out, like, I don't know, for me anyway, like if I'm making the investment in going out to dinner with other people, probably they're people I like. And so, that's good company to eat with. You have to be careful. If you have friends, for example, who like to drink a lot, maybe they're not great company to eat dinner with, because they kind of have like a peer pressure effect and you feel like you also need to do that, even if you don't want to. When we have alcohol while eating, it lowers our inhibitions. We tend to eat more than we need. And then we have this problem of, food like rotting in the digestive system because we can't digest it fast enough. So, we can consider these things when we pick who we eat with. Is this a healthy person to eat my meal with? Yeah, or we can eat by ourselves. We're good company all by ourselves. Yeah. Okay, good. Any other questions so far? Okay,
I have a question.
please go ahead.
As far as, if you eat alone, it, you mentioned you watch YouTube videos. Like, is that
Yeah.
not a good thing to
It's not
'cause
good.
that's relaxing. You're watching something, but is that taken away in somehow from your eating?
Well, yes. I mean, sure, I'm watching positive content. So it's kind of like I have positive company, but it probably would be even more beneficial to really concentrate and be mindful, like take a break from my work, take a break from the chores or whatever it is that I'm working on. And it's like, I've got this plate of food. I look at it with my eyes. I appreciate, oh, look at the colors. There's the green of the avocado and the red of the tomato. And this English muffin is freshly baked by my friend. And so, we kind of appreciate that food more. So let's start now going into the kind of idea about prana. So there's an idea of, probably you have heard about prana before, and prana is energy. It's energy that we have in our bodies, but we also take in this energy from our food. So if we take time to appreciate, where the food came from, like, this tomato was probably grown in this location, and we think about the farmer who grew the tomato and the care that they put into it. Theoretically, according to Ayurveda, when we eat this food that we like are present with and we fully appreciate, we actually get more nourishment from it, more nutrition. It's healthier for us when we take time to appreciate all of that. I'm trying to loop back to your question now. So, if I'm watching YouTube, I mean, it's not a huge crime to watch, a Taylor Swift video is what I watched this morning while I was eating my breakfast. She has an amazing new short movie that just came out. I definitely recommend you go watch it. But anyway, if you're watching some kind of content that's enjoyable, it's not the end of the world. But if you can, be very present with your food, or maybe appreciate the food and then turn on your video, it's just kind of it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum of good quality eating habits. Yeah.
So what's the downside? Because I eat and watch TV all the time. all the
Yeah.
time.
Well, so the downside would be that we're not gaining as much nutrition from the food as we possibly could be. Let me think what else. Yeah. And, it's just it's another opportunity to practice mindfulness. And I was just talking about in the class earlier that the more we practice something, the more it becomes our habit. And so if we practice mindfulness while we're eating, then, it's a practice. It's helping us to become mindful in all areas of life. And, when we become mindful, we can perceive more clearly, we're calmer, more peaceful, our blood pressure reduces, stress hormones are less, all of these, are kind of a waterfall effect from that mindfulness practice. Yeah. Okay, good. I am going to read over here in the comments. Someone is sleepy. Okay, let's do, if you're sleepy, Brandy, remember, did I teach you all? Yes, I taught you last week about the Surya Vedana. Yeah, you can do 2 or 3 rounds of inhale right, exhale left to perk you up a little. Okay, sometimes you have to eat with people you don't really like. Yes, this is true.
What do you do? Like when that happens, like when you're in a social situation and you're
Yeah.
stressed,
Yeah.
and you don't like what people are talking about and you're trying not to say the wrong thing. And like, it happens a lot,
Mm,
like with work and stuff, right? You just
yeah.
these things.
Yeah, I think it's good. I mean, just like anything else, life happens. And so if we practice mindfulness most of the time, probably when we get into this situation, we're going to be like, wow, this is not an ideal eating situation here, but it's what I have right now. And so I'll eat. And then next time you eat, then you can eat, in a healthier way.
Or don't drink your way into tolerance, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a tough call because, on the one hand, you kind of want to like blur the offensive conversation or whatever it is, but it's a slippery slope. One glass of wine turns into 2, turns into 3. And then before you know it, you two are saying things that you wish you hadn't said. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Some colorful commentary about digestion and overeating. My brother is always talking about the origin of the expressions. Someone is full of, yes. Yeah. There is another similar expression is you are what you eat. And yes, so, I was talking about prana earlier, and, the better quality foods you eat, the more prana you're having in your body. So, in that regard, you are what you eat. Yeah. Okay, good. Let's see what else we have here. Eating in front of the TV. I eat more than I need because I'm not paying attention. Yeah. And you know what I notice about overeating is when I prepare food myself, food that I like, food that I have put care and love into, which by the way also infuses more prana into the food. I enjoy that food more. If I'm eating, this happened to me this week, pizza from the restaurant because I was too busy to cook and we just ordered pizza. I ate so much pizza. Why? It wasn't satisfying. Like the seasonings weren't right. It wasn't satisfying. I didn't feel content with it. Like, I was putting it into my mouth and chewing it, but it never gave that content feeling because it just, I don't know, the quality of the food was poor. And so I kept eating and eating, hoping to end up with that content feeling, but it never happens. So the moral of the story is, food that you prepare or food that's prepared by someone certainly is better than something that is processed. So that is going to lead into the next little topic here. And probably this too is obvious, but definitely worth talking about. So we were talking about prana, the quality of the food. Also, the freshness of the food is important. In other words, like freshness can mean different things. So fresh means something that grew from the earth rather than something that came from a factory. Like, eating a bag of Cheetos is less beneficial than eating a bag of baby carrots, something like that. So foods that are closer to the earth are less processed, are healthier. They have more prana, they have more energy in them. Also, it's recommended in Ayurveda to eat foods that are local to you because for a number of reasons. One is because you are acclimated to that kind of food, like your body tolerates the kinds of food that are built in the climate or that are made in the climate where you live. And also, when we have foods that are grown locally, they're more likely to be picked closer to their peak ripeness. If you're eating an apple that was grown in Australia, they had to pick it when it wasn't ripe yet so that it could travel all the way over and make it to your house. So, local foods for that reason also are recommended over foods that are not local to you.
How do you do that? And I mean, I'm pretty sure the blueberries I just washed were from some other country. Not
Yeah,
even
they're probably
another
from South
state.
America.
Yeah, they're from
Yeah.
another country. I mean, I go to farmers market and I buy seasonally. Like I only buy in season. Like the blueberries, they're for my husband, so I don't really. But what I do with me, it's a different story and everything. But like how do you some people don't have access to like a farmer's market or whatever, or be able like next week we have this big like Reading terminal where there's butchers, you know what I'm saying, where it's not a lot of people didn't touch it, like the meat. It's only like maybe one person, the grower, whoever's growing the cow, and then the seller and stuff. But a lot of people don't have access to that. So how do you do with that?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of factors to consider. The first one is not everyone cares about this. Like y'all care about this and you're here and we're talking about it. A lot of people have no awareness, don't care about this. They'll eat whatever. They'll eat hamburger helper. Those of us who are aware of it, again, have to like be practical and give ourselves some grace. Yes, ideally, we would love to eat 100% locally grown in season foods, but it's not 100% practical. Depending on the climate where you live, some things cannot be grown. They need to be imported from somewhere else, but we can know that we can try to make it a priority to go to the farmer's market and ask the farmer, did you grow this? Where did this thing come from? When did you pick it? Learn a little bit about the food and eat whatever percentage of those locally grown, like ripe foods that you can. And then if you need fruit and there's no locally grown fruits, then go ahead and get, you know, your blueberries or your bananas or your whatever that may have come from another place. It's fine. You know, but the idea is not to go like, I don't know about all the grocery stores, but in my grocery store, I pretty much stick around the perimeter of the store, which is like produce and then like all the dairy, like cheeses and the milk and the eggs are all around the edge of the store. I don't spend a lot of time in the middle of the store where they tend to have more of the processed stuff. Although I do pretty much buy some pasta every time I go to the grocery store. But yeah, so we can think about it about, you know, ideally, this is what we would like, but what's practical? Like how much of that ideal can I do? And what other things can I buy that are pretty healthy and not damaging to me?
Yeah, I mean, when I started managing my diabetes, I went through the whole cabinet and just threw out all the processed food. And I was amazed how much was in my house. Like you don't know like how and I love to cook. That's what really shocked me is that I love to cook and I had this much. That meant I was being too daggone lazy. That was like a big like thing. But I didn't realize how expensive it was. So I had to adjust my budget, you know, and I had to make some sacrifices to be healthy, which was a shock to my system and everything. So even now,
And the processed foods are meant to be convenient, you know, because we're busy and we don't have time to cook dinner every night. And so we order pizza, you know, or we, you know, pull out a frozen meal or whatever, something that's quick and easy. So, yeah, but, you know, we have kind of the intention that as much as possible, we're trying to make the right choices, knowing that sometimes life happens and we have to do things that are not ideal. Yeah. Okay, more comments coming in over here. Brandy's asking about mantras to say before eating. Oh, that's a lovely question. I have no idea. I'll have to do some research about that. I don't know. Let me write it down.
I think sometimes like saying it either mentally or out loud helps you really do it.
Yeah. And be present and appreciate the food.
Right.
Yeah. I have adjusted diet to only eat locally sourced. Wow. But lucky to live in a rich area. Yeah. Freezing seasonal fruits helps. Fresh food is so expensive now. Everything is getting so expensive right now. Yesterday I had the landscaper come and he was apologizing at the cost of the, you know, the dirt that he had to bring. He was like, I'm sorry, ma'am, it's $60 and it used to be $40 or something. Everything is going up. Supporting the local farmers. I need to make an effort to go to the farmers market more. What's that?
You can make a lot. Like I make my own tomato sauce. Like a friend of mine, I went over to her house. She started me. I grow my own kefir and stuff, which I haven't like really. I experiment a lot on my husband. So he like I give it to him.
Is this safe? Is it safe to eat? Are you going to get us cake?
He's been fine, but it's really easy to grow your own kefir. I'm sorry, I just gave myself a clear up. It's stuff, but the kefir and tomato, and she also gave me the start of apple cider, like making my own apple cider and stuff like that. So you can make some stuff.
There's a ton of stuff you can make at home. For a little while I was making ginger beer. It's not really beer. It has just it's like fermented ginger soda, something like that. Kombucha. There's a ton of stuff you can make at home. And I think that, I mean, one day when my kids are a little bit less dependent on me, I would love to establish some healthy hobbies like canning. Oh, that's lovely. You know, you go to the farmer's market, you buy a few pounds of tomatoes or whatever, 10 pounds of tomatoes, you support local, you get the, you know, fresh in season local stuff, and then can it. And then you have it for, you know, when they're not in season, like in the winter, and then you have your canned tomatoes to use for whatever. I think that's To
Yeah.
me, those are ideal type of hobbies because it's a mindfulness practice and it's a self-care practice. And it's, a way to eat healthy foods, eat good foods with lots of prana.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Ideally, we would want to eat the foods like fresh in short order after it's been picked. But, canning your own tomatoes is probably better than buying the canned tomatoes from the grocery store. So yeah, it's all a continuum. Okay, good. Ooh, Brandy has grown her own tomatoes and canned them 1 year. That is impressive. Yeah. Before
How
kids, I used to do things like that.
It was too much work. I won't do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you get people who live in like the same, like it's the same season all year round? Like, how do you, like, I'm fortunate, like I live in Pennsylvania, so we have all 4 seasons, but how do you get like fresh stuff, things that are seasonal? Like right now it's fall and, it's squash and all of these other things that we have in the
Yeah.
fall. How do you?
You just get what's available in, at the time. So, and then buy imported of the rest of the stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
It's
good.
kind of like that with macrobiotics, where you eat seasonally to what's in your area.
I didn't know that. I'm gonna do some research.
And I'm lucky because I'm near an orchard and they
Wow.
grow a lot of vegetables and a lot of fruit. So I freeze my blueberries and pick up whatever they have in season. But I'll go there rather than to a grocery store. If I need a cucumber, I drive
Yeah.
all the way to the orchard to go get
Yeah.
a couple of fresh things and
That's so
bring
nice.
them home. Yeah.
On that subject, I want to mention one thing too. I'm like normalizing all the things today. We have here in my town, in fact, I know the owner. It's a very nice little farmer's market, and he gets he drives to the farm and gets the watermelons from a couple of hours away, and he goes and he gets the stuff. If any of y'all are local, you may know Eli's Roadside Produce Market. It's on 79 by Walmart. But anyway, it's a lovely place. And I love Eli. He's wonderful. And I love to go there. But practically at this stage in my life, I don't have time to drive across town to see him. And yes, I would love to go buy my pumpkins from him and whatever, but I don't have time. So I have to buy him at the grocery store. So it's a one-stop shop when I get, my laundry detergent and all the other things I need. So, we all have this intention of wanting, like knowing what the best choice is and wanting to do it, but just the realization we can't do it all in an ideal way right now. So we just do our best. Okay. I'm going to switch to a new point in the conversation. Okay. I know we're all friends right now, but you may not like me as much as we start getting into these next topics, because they're very they're different. People have
What a way to start a conversation.
I'm sorry.
I already don't like you.
I just want to
I haven't even
preface it.
said anything. I already don't like you.
It's going to be a little rough for a few minutes. So I'm just letting you know, we're going to have some turbulence. We can be friends again in like 10 minutes after that. Okay, so here we go. Where do I begin? Okay. Let me go like this in the order that I wrote it down. So Ayurveda has guidance for how much food we should eat. Okay, Ayurveda, some of you will have maybe heard this before. Ayurveda teaches that when we eat our meal, we should eat half of the capacity. I feel nervous even saying this to you. We should eat half of the capacity of the stomach of food. A quarter of the capacity of the stomach is meant for water. And the last 1/4 of the stomach is meant for air. And you're not going to swallow air, but what they mean is we're not filling up the stomach entirely. We're filling it up with half of its capacity of food and 1/4 of capacity of water, and having some space left over, which is very different from how I eat. I don't know about you. I normally eat to full or stuffed, most of the time, which isn't healthy. We already talked about, having food that the body can't process in the right amount of time, and the toxins and all of that. But this is a very interesting idea. I think it's very, like, we never even think about this in our culture. Like, how much food should I be eating? How big even is the capacity of my stomach? I think I heard Martha Stewart say one time that the capacity of the stomach is like this much. So half of that is the portion of food we should be eating, something like that. Not that Martha Stewart is an expert on Ayurveda, but that's the only visual I have. So, if you think about the size of your body and probably what the size of your stomach is, you can get an idea of the portion of food that you're, according to Ayurveda, meant to eat in one sitting. So the next question inevitably is, if I'm eating only half the capacity of my stomach, I'm going to be starving all the time. Like, what the heck? I'm going to be hungry. What am I, like, how do you reconcile this? Well, we reconcile it with the quality of the food. So we need to eat high quality foods that are very nourishing and that are going to keep us satisfied for, here's the next point, about 4 to 5 hours. So we need to find some kind of food to eat that we can eat half of the volume of our stomach. And it's going to be so nourishing and so satisfying that we're going to be content for 4 or 5 hours until it's time for the next meal. So what kind of food is that? Typically, foods that are not processed, all the stuff we've talked about already. So like whole grains that are, they take time to digest. Maybe, meats for people who like to eat meats, or maybe the protein source is beans for people who don't prefer to eat meat. Vegetables, soupy foods can be kind of filling, and that also actually would count as part of your water intake. Okay, good. No one's panicking. So I'm glad we kind of got through that rough part. But any questions about this stuff? Like how much food to eat, how frequently to eat?
This is, for me, I'm diabetic. So this is exactly what you're just repeating what my doctor has said.
Okay.
And everything. So I'm like, good luck, y'all, because it was hard.
Yeah, it's rough. For people who are interested in, I don't know, it's tricky. People can be interested in this, but they hear this information, and very often people kind of panic when I talk about this. So I think I've just been conditioned to approach very cautiously, because it's different from how we normally eat. We don't normally, for most people, think about the portion. I guess we should think about the portions that we're eating to make sure that we're eating the right amount and getting the right nutrition. But yeah, the idea of eating high quality foods that are going to keep you satisfied for 4 to 5 hours, I think is kind of foreign for us. Yeah, trial and error, absolutely. How you determine what half your capacity.
I think.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Kelly.
One of the things that probably I find harder about that statement is keep you satisfied for 4 to 5 hours. That's a long time. Like,
yeah.
Because I've been trying to make those adjustments. Like for me, one of the things was more protein in the morning, so I can go longer. But 5 hours would be like, if I eat breakfast at 9, that's lunch at 2, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's long.
Yeah. So, yes, I had an idea, but I'll share it in a minute after I respond to some of these comments.
If you think about it, though, I ate breakfast at 6. I eat now because you're like 12 o'clock. And stuff. So I've had yoga practice, like you're busy. So sometimes the time goes by until you realize you're hungry. And if you look at the time, it's probably about 4 or 5 hours. Like I have to eat something because I feel hungry and everything after 4 or 5 hours. And I'm a snacker. So I've been busy and haven't been snacking. So I'm on what? But if you think about it and you're busy and you're doing stuff, by the time you think about being hungry, at least for me, 4 or 5 hours have gone by. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's lots of.
I'm sorry, no. Then it's just like, what are you going to eat? Because you're hungry, and if you're busy, you're like starting to snatch things out of places where you shouldn't, where you stash the bad stuff. So
Right.
it's not right
Something
in front
quick.
of you. Yeah.
Yeah, something that's quick. Okay, so there's some great comments coming in over here on the chat. So yes, it does take trial and error to figure out what kinds of food to eat in that portion size to keep you satisfied for 4 to 5 hours. And also, if we're not accustomed to eating that way, we're not going to be successful with it right away. Like it's going to take some time for our digestive system to become acclimated to eating a different volume of food and, you know, being satisfied with it, and for, you know, all of that. It'll take some time. So give yourself some grace. And, you know, we definitely make mistakes when we're trying to make any kind of changes to anything, any kind of habits. So yeah, be easy with yourself. Let me see, high fiber foods and what last. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, comments and guidance about snacking in between meals. So here's another thing. It's like Ayurveda has a lot of like guidance or rules about how to do things, but also we have to be practical. So this kind of idea that we're eating enough food to be satisfied for 4 to 5 hours means that we're going to have our breakfast at say like 7 o'clock in the morning, and then we're going to be satisfied with that and not need any more food until it's lunchtime. And then we're going to have our lunch, and then 4 or 5 hours later, so like around 6 o'clock, then it's time to eat dinner. We've been satisfied because we ate the correct kind of lunch, and then we eat our dinner. And then we're going to, you know, digestion is going to happen and our foods are going to be digested so that we can go to sleep, and our digestive processes don't disturb the quality of our sleep. We talked about that earlier. I think on the first day about we need to eat early enough that you know, the digestion doesn't disturb your sleep. So the idea is that we should not need snacks. That said, sometimes we need snacks. The mistake that I've been realizing lately for myself, like Nicole was talking about, I forgot what exactly you were saying and how I was correlating my idea to it. But oh yeah, when we're suddenly hangry, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. Like I was busy and now it's my break time and I suddenly realized I'm starving and there's no food ready. So sometimes what I realize that I do is I make something small and quick. Like, I don't know, I'm just making something up, like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I eat it because it's super quick, and I might have some, I don't know, chips or grapes or something to go with it. Well, guess what? That food is not nourishing enough to hold me for 4 to 5 hours. So 3 hours later, I'm hungry again. I can't wait 2 more hours to eat my dinner. Like that's not correct. So I do need to eat some kind of a snack. But again, it should be the right size and quality of snack so that it sustains me for the 2 hours until it's dinner time. Yep. Just going to be quiet for a minute and let you reflect, because you probably have some examples like that in your own life. It's a big, like the question that I ask myself when I'm making lunch is this substantial enough to hold me until dinner? Or is this meal that I've prepared or I'm planning too small? So, you know, that's something that goes into my meal planning, that the food needs to be, you know, nourishing enough and, you know, not too much of like simple carbs that are going to digest quickly. And then I'm going to be hungry again before it's time to eat dinner. Yeah. Okay. Let's see what else we have over here. Been mostly carnivore and reversed my pre-diabetes. Amazing how bodies are different. Yep. Yeah, bodies are different, you know, and it also like leans into the discussion we had last week about our constitution and what kind of foods different bodies need and what kind of foods are aggravating to certain, you know, different kinds of bodies / constitutions. Yeah. And Ayurveda does not like recommend that everybody should be a vegetarian. You know, that's more of a considered to be like a personal choice. Okay, how does one recognize hunger? Because oftentimes in our busy lifestyles, I don't realize until it's too late. Yes, and you're hangry and you have a headache and you're exhausted. So I think that, you know, I was talking about how it's kind of a It takes time to acclimate into this new style of eating if this is something that you choose to do. And, you know, when we start to get into the habit of eating the right portion of food, the right food at the right place at the right time with the right people, you know, and it becomes our routine. You know, we're practicing it regularly, we're getting good at it. Our body starts to understand that and starts to know when to expect food. And when we're not in that cycle of, you know, eating a meal that's too big and then getting to starving, when we start to establish those habits, then we can read the body's signals better. You know, our body starts to know at 12 o'clock is when food comes. And so, you know, I think that's one way that we recognize hunger. It becomes part of our routine. And mindfulness practices, I think, are also important, that we shouldn't be so engaged in our work or, you know, whatever other activity to not realize how we are feeling. We should start, you know, when hunger starts, we should start to say, oh, I'm starting to get hungry now. What time is it? Okay, my meal's going to be in 45 minutes. Yeah, and I think meal planning is also, I mean, not exactly to answer your question, but the meal planning, you know, becomes very important when maybe like, especially in our lifestyle and depending on where you live, like maybe in a big city, you can walk downstairs and to the corner and there's a grocery store and you can get what you need for your meal. For me, it's not the same. I need to get in my car and drive to the store, and it like the whole process takes like an hour and a half to get the groceries done. So depending on, you know, your lifestyle and how you live, your planning will be different. But the planning, I think, is really important to be able to establish your healthy eating habits.
What kind of planning? What do you mean meal planning? What do you mean?
Well, like for me, you know, given the suburban area where I live, I have to plan my meals for a whole week and, you know, plan my meals, plan my grocery list, go buy the groceries, make sure I have the things on hand. And then like, okay, I've planned salmon on Tuesday. Okay, salmon's done. Now here's the next thing for Wednesday. It has to be organized like that or it won't get done. Otherwise we're ordering takeout or we're driving through and picking up hamburgers or something like that. Like it has to be organized and planned for my particular, you know, situation. And everyone may be different.
I do menu planning. You said meal. I thought maybe you did like, but I know I do menu planning
Okay,
and stuff. Yeah.
that's what
to
I
know
meant.
what I'm cooking. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. We're good so far. Let me see if I have any other things I need to share with you. I may have covered everything. Okay. Just one more note related to what we were previously talking about. So making the connection between the Ayurvedic constitution and like what you choose to eat. Last week, I tried to really strongly emphasize that if you're feeling fine, if you're not having any symptoms of dis-ease in your body, like not actually diseases, but something that is not in ease, you can keep eating what you're eating. You're already doing fine. Your constitution is in balance and you're all right. But if you're having any kind of like too much inflammation in your body, too much headaches, like a sore in your mouth, heartburn, skin problems, like all of these are indications that something is wrong, then, you know, you should look at your diet and check, you know, what is my constitution? Am I eating foods that are not appropriate for my constitution and are making it aggravated? You know, that's the only time when we need to make some changes. Okay, and then I wanted to share this interesting Ayurvedic guidance with you. There is guidance related to your weight goals and your water consumption, which I thought was really interesting. So the first one is, if you are interested in gaining weight, when you go to eat your meal, you should eat your food first and then drink your water last. If, on the other hand, you're interested in losing weight, you should drink your water first and then eat your food. And if you're interested in maintaining your weight, then you can simultaneously eat and drink your water, during your meals. I thought that was really simple and straightforward and practical, practical advice. And then, oh, that might be it. Yeah. And my last note was to have a light dinner so that you can sleep well. So if you're eating your dinner at 6 o'clock, it's okay to eat a bigger meal. You have plenty of time to digest it. If you have to eat your dinner at 9 o'clock, then it's a good idea to eat something lighter so that you can mostly digest it by the time you go to sleep. Yes. Okay. So now you have all, perhaps new, interesting things to think about as you work on, your eating, your meals, your routines around nutrition. Any questions or anything that you found particularly interesting that you want to implement in your routine?
What do you think about eating your biggest, heaviest meal in the morning? Like I usually do that in the morning, I have my heaviest meal, and then I throughout the day come down to like the lightest meal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's probably fine. Ayurveda tells us that we should have our biggest meal at lunchtime.
Mm.
So yeah, so just not for dinner. Dinner should not be the heaviest meal. Yeah. Very good. All right. What did I miss? Any lingering questions? Lots of food for thought, pun intended. Okay, very good. Very good. So I think that's all. I have a couple of notes of things to go learn more about. One is mantras and the other is macrobiotics and the relationship to Ayurveda. I'm fascinated to learn more about that. And if you haven't already, you can still, yeah, I'm hungry too. I see someone type that there in the chat. If you haven't already, you can still send me, any questions that you have about your Ayurvedic constitution. I mentioned earlier, but I want to mention again that I received a lot of emails, but I haven't had time to reply to them all, but I will probably before the end of the weekend. Yeah, and the main reason that I wanted to open up or, to offer that if you wanted that you could email me about it is because oftentimes the constitution, the results don't come out exactly right. So if you're sending me your results of I got, like 12 of this and 3 of that or whatever, also give me some background information, like what you expected your constitution to be, or if you have questions about, some of those questions and whether your answer is correct, like to clarify what any of the questions are. Yeah, that will be really helpful. We can get the conversation going. And if we need to, we can even schedule a short call and we can just talk about it rather than going back and forth on email. Okay, very good. Well, hopefully this has been interesting and helpful for you. Just to kind of circle back and connect all the pieces together. Ayurveda teaches that we need to maintain our health, have, healthy habits, and try to, let me try that again, have healthy habits and be as healthy as possible so that we have less of disease, especially later in life. If disease does happen, if we get, any kind of thing going on with the body, there's certainly ways to address that through Ayurveda and also through Western medicine, but mostly we're trying to keep ourselves as healthy as possible so that we can be resilient and manage the stressors that come along in life without letting them have a very strong, negative effect on us. So that's kind of the takeaway, from everything that we've talked about over the last 3 weeks. Trying to establish your healthy habits, trying to establish your healthy routines so that you can maintain your health in the long term and be resilient and be comfortable in your body without aches and pains or any kind of problems. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you everybody for being here and letting me talk about this stuff over the last 3 weeks. It's been a lot of fun and I've looked forward to every session with y'all. Please do, don't hesitate to send me an email if you have any questions going forward. All right, y'all have a great rest of your day. Go have a nice meal. Okay, bye everybody.